We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders.
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
One conversation at a time.
4,
3,
2,
1. Ignition.
Welcome to the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast. I'm your host, Mark Bivins, Vice President of Sales for PioneerRx, and today I am here with Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh Howland, Senior Vice President of Clinical Strategy and Development.
Today we're here again with Jeff Harrell, owner of Peninsula Pharmacies, but also partner in about 20 other pharmacies that he partners with other independent owners up in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, it's the big dog.
Something like that.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, it's just starting to get light here. So,
how you been? How'd you go? You were at NCPA?
Yeah, I actually was on quite a little run there. I went to NCPA early October, and then we took a little time. Went up to Asheville, 9 of us off the board. Just
nice.
kind of chilled out for 3 or 4 days, and then AAP board meeting in Nashville.
Okay.
So got home late Friday, and that's it till January. I'm shutting her down. So.
Yeah, if you just kept going west, you could have done a couple more stops on your way back home.
I know. There's actually, I got to go out to Miami and visit Sonia. Do you guys know Sonia Martinez?
I do know Sonia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to go out and see what she's got going and that. But I typically don't try to go to, or I try to hit a store of a friend or a board member if it's on my way. Yeah. Not extra travel.
So you said on your way. Is this Miami, Ohio, or Miami, Florida?
Oh,
Florida?
no,
Okay.
Miami, Florida.
I was I was thinking like going backward, and I was like,
no. Anyways, no, things are super busy and just navigating all the current challenges and in pharmacy with COVID and reimbursement. Almost some of the same songs.
Sure. Well, let's kind of get into that. I know you're one of the few repeats, by the way. So thank you.
I appreciate it, and I really enjoy doing them, and hope it helps the industry and other independent pharmacies or pharmacists. So yeah, thanks for having me a second time around. I'll try to. Like I said the first time, I'll try to keep the 4-letter words to a minimum.
Hey, you get one F-bomb, I think, and then we're good. I think you got one. So.
I think we should pitch the title for this as being Jeff's number 2.
Right.
That's funny.
So for those, I guess maybe might be listening to it at least to Jeff the first time. So based out of I'm gonna say. Up in the Northwest, because you have multiple pharmacies up there. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where you are, and then also for those of you who don't know Jeff as well, he's really into partnering with other pharmacies. I think he owns or co-owns roughly 28. Am I right?
26.
26 pharmacies. So,
yeah.
Where's your footprint?
Well, I'm based out of a little town on the coast, Long Beach, Washington. So if you kind of pull your map out and take a look at the state of Washington, it's that kind of Hook Peninsula there in the southwest corner. So if you're, mapping it out by metropolitan cities, we're 3 hours southwest of Seattle and 2 hours northwest of Portland, Oregon. And I usually do my flying mostly out of Portland just because it's one less hour of travel. But we've since the first podcast, we've done definitely a little bit of growth and expanded our footprint. We are in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. We have 26 locations at the moment and have 3 or 4 other opportunities in the pipeline, including a brand new build. Nice. and brand new pharmacy. Following our model of one of them there. And then we go into Idaho and Oregon. Yeah. And so we got about 5 locations, I believe, in Oregon, 1 in Idaho at the moment, and then all the rest are in Washington, kind of sprinkled along the I-5 corridor and the coastal rural areas And then we've got a cluster over in the Spokane area with my partner, Eric.
Yeah, with Eric. Yep.
Yeah.
So, hey, you talked about this last time. You kind of had a new, maybe a new model, maybe that's the right word, around a pharmacy model that I think worked well in either a small setting or
basically it's a small footprint, not a big out front, and we really focus on, services, maximizing the prescriptions we're filling for profitability, keeping your employee costs down, with that smaller footprint. And I mean, out of the 26 locations, I think there's only 2 stores that don't fit this model. 92% of our revenue comes from prescriptions. And I know that we keep trying to push clinical services and try to get some of these other revenues coming, but the gasoline for the truck comes from still count licking and sticking. Right. And so we really try to make that an efficient process, and then try to maximize those scripts for profitability using the various data analytics and things like that. And so, actually that new store that we're building in Chehalis, Washington, is going to mirror the store in Centralia. So small footprint, drive-through, almost like a Starbucks looking building.
Oh, okay.
And so, we really feel that that'll be profitable within 9 months.
Wow. Within 9 months.
With a brand new startup. Yeah, we definitely are strategically placing it across from a Rite Aid, so it should be really easy to get to the first 50 scripts a day.
Okay. Okay, just maybe put a sign out that says "We Smile" here, and
we know your name.
And so, just for reference, profitable within 9 months is better than average for what? Like what's the average from a new store?
No,
startup?
I think the average, and I don't quote me on this, but I believe that some of the data I've read is about 2 years on a greenfield startup. So if you can get to that 80 script a day mark, with low employee costs, you're breaking even about 80 scripts is what we're seeing. That could change depending on payer mix and the regions you're in.
Oh, that makes total sense, man. That's exciting.
I would have killed for 80 scripts a day at Walgreens back in my day.
I
feel like 80 by 10 a.m. And
it's
definitely changed right now.
So in a smaller footprint like that, so it's like almost like a mini Starbucks. Is that what you mean? Like one of those ones you'd see like a coffee shop with a wraparound with a drive-through kind of piece there?
Yeah, it's about 1,200 square feet, and so it's not like super small, but it's just we just don't have that big front end, that big 5,000 square foot front end or 3,000 square foot front end where, it's another expense for a small part of the revenue. And now there are locations, that we have where they have, we have one store that has 12,000 square foot front end. So their sales out front are going to be incredible because they've got so much stuff, and we do have good foot traffic there. And then we have the one partner, Tyler, out on the Vashon Island. I mean, he's the only store on the island, and so his out front sales are very different than one of the stores that are in more of a competing market. And so that footprint, we have our vitamins, we have our supplements, we have our aids to daily living, we have our immunization room, and then we really focus on the filling of the prescriptions. And then with COVID, a drive-through has been so important. And so that's a necessity, I feel, in a small footprint type model.
Yeah. So I know for a while there was kind of the push to go away from drive-throughs in an independent pharmacy, right? That was almost even a selling point against some of the bigger chains, right? We don't do drive-throughs. Do you think that's permanently changed post-COVID?
Oh, I do for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, any of the stores that don't have a drive-through, I'm looking at how I can get a drive-through in. And also you have your next round of patients coming, which are the mothers, with the kids that don't want to get them all out of the car. And, I think what's the most growing rate of children being born is in that 38 to 45 range. So people are having kids older.
Yeah.
And, and I know that I don't really want to drag them all in. So the drive-through is really nice. And I believe now that still most of the food independent or the food chains, McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and and all Wendy's, whatever those are, they're all still just drive-through, no retail front, So the other thing that it does, at least, if you have to go only drive-through, you can staff that with pretty minimal staff.
Right. Yeah, you basically just hit my demographic on the head, right? I had a kid at 34. I was very opposed to drive-thrus in general.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a smallish car and a smallish human in the back seat. If there's a drive-thru, I'm in.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's kind of self-queuing as obviously
Yeah.
it's self-queuing, and it's just you forget all the efficiencies it brought until you really needed them.
Well, and I think too that the technology, you guys Pioneers done a great job with the drive-through modules and iPads and signing. I think that the technology just to get a drive-through transaction done quicker, so you're moving them along quicker and not waiting, has come a long ways too. So I think there's something to be said about that as well.
So how do you balance? All right, so you got them in a drive-through, you got them in and out as fast as possible. How do you continue to balance that relationship that independents are kind of famous for?
Well, a lot of them do come in and shop the store too. It just might not be at that particular moment, whether they don't have the kids or they have the kids, or, it's late night and they're on the way home from work and they've had a rough day. So, typically, we know them, they're still our customer. And, it's just the same principles we use when they're standing in front of you, call them by their name, talk with them, give the dog a dog bone, give the kids a lollipop. You can still create that independent feel, at the window as well. One of our stores that just came on, and it's kind of a funny story. I don't know if you guys want to go there, but I'm going to.
Let's go. Let's do it.
This store that I partnered with the guy in Seattle, Kenmore area, he listened to the podcast and called me, and the number one podcast, and it was a direct result of podcast number one.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And so it was an interesting story where he didn't quite have what he needed to get the deal done. And the owner said, why don't you reach out to Jeff after they listened to the podcast? And in September, his dream came true. It was great. And that store, we actually close at 7 and keep the drive-thru open until 9:30.
Wow.
And so the drive-thru, and I would question that, because again, different demographic, different model area.
Sure.
And I questioned it. And so I was up there when I introduced myself to who I am when we took the store over, and the drive-thru was packed. And when I got in my truck at 8:00 and left, they were still lined up around the.
You're like, what? I won't bring it up.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, it works, And I think what we're doing is competing with some of the chains that do something similar. And so not only is giving the customer in that area an option to get their prescription filled after hours, it also gives the pharmacy staff time to get some stuff done, because this is a fairly high volume store, to get some stuff done that they wouldn't be able to get done during the day when they're on the line and under those pressures. So it was, So I was like, okay, I'm not going to question that anymore.
Yeah. Well, so
all right, it looks like it works.
Back in my chain retail days, we kept them both open, the front end and the drive-through. And usually, toward the end of my tenure at that chain, it was me by myself for the last hour. But actually, in some of the areas, in some of the more like dangerous neighborhoods, we would actually close the front and just do the drive-through, just because if you're there by yourself, it's way safer.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect example of that area. That, evening time is better just having the drive-through open.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to get robbed, that bulletproof glass really makes you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's cool. So somebody was listening to this, said, hey, I think Jeff could help me partner and get this store taken over, and reached out to you after the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
That's exactly. I think it was in December, I believe, is when we did the one. And I just got
Was it really almost a year ago?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was. It was early December.
Wow.
And so Matt reached out to me. Had never met Matt, and so I always listen. I never say no. I always listen and let's do the dance and kick the tires. And he had said, hey, Todd, my boss, my owner, said I should reach out to you after listening to the podcast. And so Matt and I engaged in conversation. I found out kind of why and what and where and how.
Right.
I met him and his family, made sure that he was compatible with me and my group, my partners, and he fit right in. I thought he also brought a skill set that we didn't have, very, very analytical, very gross profit, focused, does a really nice job. And so we did the dance and we got the store closed in September, and it was emotional for me because he texted me and said, "Hey, thanks, this has been a dream come true." And so
man, that's cool.
It was really cool. So all because of your podcast, guys.
I think because of you on the podcast, for real.
Well, I don't know. You're giving me the platform, I guess.
For real, but it's so cool to hear like a really almost like that literally is a life-changing story, right?
I do. Yeah, I have another one.
You get to be a part of those. Yeah, no, let's hear another one. You get to be a part of those.
About the same time, a gal, Jacqueline, who used to be a clerk for me, way back in the day, probably maybe like 13, or no, it would have been, it would have been 04, 05.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range. I was managing a store in Seattle and she was a clerk for me. And we ended up moving and then buying into the first stores in 06. And then she got into pharmacy school at Washington State, went through, became a pharmacist, and went to work for Bartell's.
Okay.
Out in our area.
Yep.
And she worked her way up. She's fantastic. 13 years in Bartell's. She got into management and leadership, and then Bartell's sold to Rite Aid, and they dumped the bitters into her coffee instead of the sugar. So she called me up and she said, "Hey, find me a store. I'm done." And I said, "Well, okay, let's talk." And she said, I can't take it anymore. The corporate mentality, the emails constant emails that we're getting. I mean, it's just way different of managing, and she just said, I'm ready. And so I reached out to my, contacts and network of people that, I know potentially could or would know of stores that are available. And sure enough, one popped up, and it's one that I look back at in 2015 or 2013. So we had looked at this store, but I didn't have that partner. It's kind of out it's in rural Washington, kind of a cowboy farming community.
Okay.
And so I like the idea because it's a rural location, and the rural stores, do a little better with contracting and things like that. And I said, well, hey, I got this store out in Goldendale, Washington. And she says, I'll take it. I said, what? She says, if you get it done, I'll take it. She sold her house in Seattle area. She moved her family to Goldendale. She bought property to build a home eventually. And we took the store over about the same time as we did the Seattle. They were running side by side, I think a week or two after. And now she's in her store. And and now she again, same text message type situation, said, man, this is a dream come true, Jeff. And so that makes me feel good. But she also had to take that risk. I mean, she moved her whole family, went into a community that she wasn't a part of, and is just doing fantastic. She's thriving, and another great asset to our group. I mean, I have a group of partners who are all top notch.
So for reference, how far is Goldendale from Seattle?
Oh boy. Let me see. It's got to be about 6 hours or more.
Wow.
Oh, so across the state. Then.
That's a substantial move.
Yeah. So you have to go, I think you go down I-5 to Portland, Oregon, and then up the gorge, and then you cross back over the Columbia and then go up into Goldendale. I don't have my map out, but I believe that would be the probably quickest.
Yeah,
so it wasn't
that's a commitment.
It wasn't just an hour move. I mean, it was a commitment.
It's a substantial risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to wrap my head around. Like, in Dallas, if you're like, oh, I'm going to move out of the Dallas area into Sherman, I can still,
right. Yeah. It's like still just down the road still.
Yeah,
no, that's a substantial risk, man.
If you have to take a raft or a helicopter to get there, commitment.
Yeah, I think actually the helicopter would be faster.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that Kobe situation, though.
Yeah.
I'm not a bit like. I was always I tried to get my wife when we went to Hawaii to do like the helicopter tour, and then like 3 weeks before we went, one of our family friends was there, and the helicopter tour before them had to make an emergency landing, and she was like, I'm out. And then after the Kobe situation, she was like, I'm never getting on a helicopter.
I don't blame her. Like, it's
right.
literally designed to fly close to the ground. You know what I mean? Which increases your risk. They're literally the riskiest probably aircraft you can get on.
There's literally no gliding. At least in like a small plane, you can glide less abruptly to the ground.
No, I have a similar story. Like in Hawaii, we had a trip scheduled as well, and it was canceled because of weather. And I still to this day wonder if somebody's looking out for me.
Yeah.
You never know. You just don't know. Same goes for hot air balloons. You know, when the hot air runs out, there's no gliding.
Right. You're just plummeting.
Yeah, it's a bad situation for everybody involved.
Unfortunately, gravity always wins.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you said you had a few on the horizon as well, you think, as well.
Yeah, we do. We have that one that we're going to build from the ground up.
Okay.
So we have the property, actually got the design last week. Things look really good. I'm hoping to have that open by third quarter maybe, or fourth quarter of 2022.
Okay.
We have one that one of my partner's dad has a store that he's owned for many years, and his dad's getting to that point where he's ready to transition out.
Okay.
And so we have actually a gal who lives in the area who's worked for us, part time and done stuff for us for years. And so we have her kind of pegged to roll into that store. And his dad has done a great job, but not really kept up on the technologies and
that's great.
And the different things that we do to have a successful business model. And so he, we think we can get in there and pump up the store, and not only will that store be pretty special because we're keeping it, in Will's family. Will Quinby is my partner whose dad it is. And so, Will then can have that footprint in the town that he grew up in as well. And so that's kind of a nice little warm and fuzzy story for that store.
Right. Well, at the very least, you kept an independent store alive and independent.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, and then we have some others that are, kind of way out on the horizon that, we're looking at, maybe in the Idaho area, and have a phone call with a guy on Friday. And so, I have people that are looking to partner for various reasons. But we've created a pretty good network, in the Pacific Northwest that allows us now to really start getting into, what I did touch on earlier, is clinical services.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to get that money that really can afford us to hire more people. And still, and still keep everything going. Because that's the toughest part of this clinical services thing is getting paid, right? I mean, I can hire all the people I want. Okay, we're not getting any more prescriptions, but we got to figure out the money side of it. And so that's my task for our group this year, is to do that. And this is kind of an interesting point. I'm kind of proud of it. Us and High School Pharmacy.
Okay.
So High School Pharmacy is down in Vancouver area there. Jack Holt, great guy. They own 26 locations, and we own 26 locations. And with Bimart closing, we are now tied for the largest independent regional chain in the area.
Nice, man.
So that's although we don't have that umbrella of High School, we keep keep them kind of doing their own thing or keep their autonomy, but. Pretty proud of that, and I know they have a bunch of affiliate stores, so they're a little bit larger from the affiliate side, but from the ownership side, we're right there. So I'm proud of that and proud of the group for that.
And a little bit more internal competition to get that 27 and 28 going.
Yes and no. You guys know me; I'm pretty competitive, so I'm not going to lie. Yes, but
I'm like, come on.
They're going to come and go. I know that we boarded we've ordered 4 stores in about 6 months, and 3 of them in like the last from July until September till October 1st. And my office staff, the admin side, they're waving the white flag. They're saying, "Jeff, can you please slow down? Can you please stop
doing things?"
So, yeah, and so we're on a kind of a holding pattern right now.
Okay.
And we Casey and I have a baby coming, so we'll have a baby by the 13th of November. So that's going to change my life.
Yeah. It's like literally what, 10 days from now? Like this?
It's literally 10 days from now. Yeah. Not, obviously you guys know our story, but not something that we had planned and at this age, but excited, definitely a lot of emotion there, but excited.
That's cool, man. Back to, so you're talking about opening up a new store, right? And I think you did with Centralia, right? Was that a new opening?
It was, yes.
Sort of.
But it was a backfill of a store that went bankrupt. Yeah.
What are some of the things you're looking for when it comes to like this location seems to make sense?
So location is definitely very important. In this particular case, it used to be a medicine shop.
Okay.
And so back in the day, I don't know if they still do, but medicine shop did some demographic analysis, and traffic flow. And so that's why this location happened to be there. It was kind of luck for us,
Sure.
and my motto on luck is preparation meeting opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the preparation, the opportunity arises, and you make your own luck. And that's just something I've always said. And so I did know the previous history of the volume
so
of
you
that
store. Knew the story.
And so I knew right away that, okay, I could make this one work. And I didn't realize I could make it work as well as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not me. That's Courtney, which is Will's wife, Courtney Quimby, and Will really making it really work, And so the new location is going to just be a model of that down one city down called the Twin Cities, Chehalis and Centralia.
Okay.
And we actually, Will and Courtney did a lot of legwork on this, but they, drove around and watched the flow and looked at the area and obviously, property price and things like that are important because we can't, afford a $3 million piece of property, and things like that. So that location and being across from a Rite Aid like that really got us excited. I mean, we sat in the parking lot one day. I remember the 3 of us in the Suburban and watched the drive-thru at Rite Aid, and it was 6 to 8 to 10 cars deep the whole entire time we were there.
I see.
And so we know that we can dislodge that business with not a lot of extra effort. And then when we put in effort, it just kind of turns up the dial.
Right.
So in that same vein, you found the pharmacy, right? The location's there. What do you look for in a partner in that network? And I know Will was already established there, but say you bring in somebody new, your rural area, how do you meet those people? What do you like? Do you cultivate them? Do you kind of have like a little Jeff Harrell school of future pharmacists?
It's kind of a mixed bag, Eric, Will, Courtney, they're out looking too, right? I mean, so they know what kind of partner really fits our mold. And it's kind of funny. Courtney calls me the matchmaker, like the pharmacy matchmaker, because when we do have our ownership retreats and get down and work together and then go after the meetings and have dinner and drinks, we mesh so well together. And very different, personalities, but they all just mesh well together. And so, we look for that. I'm a people person, that, and I have a knack, I feel, for identifying, a good fit, not good fit by personality.
Okay.
And so, definitely, just meet them. Like I did with Matt, I met his family, I met him. We just talked about life, created a relationship. And I have those. And so for the new store, we actually, I think the person that's going to go down there was a WSU grad that came onto our radar via my cousin who's in the pharmacy industry, or my second cousin. And so we had him come in, do some internships. They love him. Fantastic. And then he sees what we're doing and he's like, ooh, this is cool. I want a piece of the action. I want to try that. Will brought in Travis, which was a schoolmate of his. Travis has been in the chain sector and the corporate sector. And so, he got a taste of freedom and he loves it, and so he's we're in the process of bringing him in on a store and stuff. And so, anyways, it's a little bit of everything, you just kind of put your feelers out there. And again, Cindy, who's going to move into Will's dad's store out there, in Aberdeen, Washington, she's been in with us for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And she's, pinged me for opportunities that haven't been there. And then I pinged her when the opportunity was there and she was ready. But that's a 5, 6, 7 year window. That wasn't just something that happened overnight, right. Like Jacqueline. Jacqueline was a quick one. But again, that relationship went way back to, 05, 04.
It goes to show network. network, right?
Network.
Really
yeah. It's relationship is so important in this industry. And it's a very, very small world in the pharmacy world. When you really start getting out there and talking with people.
Yeah, no, it really is.
A lot of paths cross.
And I don't know if it will actually be our immediate past podcast when this airs, but we talked to Megan Smith out of Arkansas as Flip the Pharmacy. And, she's built a lot of stuff out of her network, and she kind of came out of that North Carolina primary care CCNC group, goes to Arkansas and starts building that network. And we cross paths because we worked with CCNC and now we're working with Flip the Pharmacy. And then, it really solidifies the fact that, pharmacy is really a small world and you have to keep an eye on what's going on and the people who are doing stuff and actually go talk to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Mildly different topic, but the last time I talked to you, you were getting ready to buy a restaurant.
So did we had the bakery, right?
Yeah, yes, you talked not last time. You didn't talk about that last time, but you also you also have a bakery, I think, right?
Yeah. So we long short story. COVID hit. 1908 bakery here in Long Beach, Washington, was going to go dark for various reasons. I knew the owners and I reached out, and so we bought that bakery. Actually dedicated it in my daughter's name. So we changed it to Dylan's Cottage Bakery.
Nice, man.
So for those listening, go to DillardCottageBakery.com and you can see a 1908 bakery. We make everything from scratch every morning. In fact, I'm looking out the window right now and watching the bakers come out from their 1:45 in the morning shift. We have what I feel like is one of the best maple bars in the world because we make our own maple and the donut is cut, raised, and made every morning. So it's a full-on bakery deli. It does Danish, custom cakes. I mean, it's full line and it's crazy. We got 28 employees there.
Wow.
Now, in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It is a total pain in the ass. The food, they warned me about food service industry, and I always am like, you know what, nothing bothers me. It's definitely a different beast, and having those different hours there, 1:45 in the morning until 5 or 6 at night. It makes it difficult, but I feel like, we're doing it for the right reason. We honor Dylan. We have a Dylan donut, a lot of donations back to the community. And so that was the bakery. The restaurant, I haven't bought a restaurant yet. I do have a guy that, I think I might have talked to you recently about that. I have a chef guy that moved down to the area.
That's right.
That we're looking at, and so nothing has come to fruition there. So maybe version 3
maybe,
of Jeff.
Maybe
Harrell.
3.
Talk about the restaurant.
Jeff's out there waiting tables.
So I'm a bit of a donut connoisseur. My daughter and I do Sunday donuts, to the detriment of my waistline. I got to know what's the Dylan donut.
So the Dylan donut is a cake donut. Dipped in our house-made chocolate, and then we put unicorn sprinkles on it. Nice. So it's not anything super special, but the kids like this unicorn sprinkles, and she was a big fan of the unicorn. The cake donut is just always solid donut. The chocolate gives it a little extra flavor. So it's not really unique as far as the donut goes, but it's unique in how we kind of designed it. And $1 or 50 cents of every donut goes to her foundation and back to the community.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, I know when our install team was there, they raved about the bakery.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you owned it back then.
No, I would not have back then.
I don't think you did, but they were there. They were saying
we didn't change anything. We kept the traditions all the same. We tweaked a little bit, but I mean, it's old, guys. I mean, like I've always joked, if the termites would quit holding hands, the building would fall down. And so if it wasn't a bakery, we'd bulldoze it and redevelop it. But it's an iconic building. So, but as far as buying things, next door is Funland. And it is a giant family fun center arcade. And we did just acquire that and brought my brother in on that. And so
I'm telling you, he's got the most interesting life. That's what I'm like the most interesting guy in the world. It's kind of a running joke.
So it's the whole block in Long Beach, right? So it's like the pharmacy, then the bakery, then Funland. And then there's a vacant lot that came with Funland. So kind of a funny joke I tell people is we're thinking about a beer garden in the vacant lot. So the parents can drink beer while the kids are spending money in the arcade.
There we go.
And then when the parents drink enough beer, they go to the bakery to eat because they're hungry. And then they overeat and overdrink, so they go to the pharmacy for their antacids. So we've just kind of cleaned them.
You've kind of got a loop. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, it's a joke, but it's kind of fun to talk about.
You can kick off some new diabetics from your bakery too.
Yeah. Hey, a funny story there. We got absolutely filleted by a couple people in the media saying, the pharmacy owner now has a bakery, how filling it is. He's going to make us all diabetic and then go get our pills. And, that's not why we're doing this. I mean, it's not, and we can joke about it, but yeah, it's frustrating when you get that kind of.
Yeah. Like something that was really, you did it to keep things kind of traditional could be a word or the legacy of the bakery. Right. And also to honor Dylan. And then they get upset about the fact that you're a pharmacist owning a bakery, and they try to twist it into something weird.
So do you now own the newspaper?
Yeah, do you now own?
Good idea. That's Bezos did that.
He did. I think he bought.
You don't like the press? Own the press, right?
Right. And I think Walmart, they didn't like the credit card processor, so they bought and made their own.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Well, I didn't realize that I have a Discover card, and I've had it since probably early college, so I can't ever get rid of it. It literally is attached to part of my credit score now. But I didn't realize that Discover started because Sears wanted a cut of the deal. It's like the last remaining portion of what Sears used to be.
Oh, that's why Sears was always like, we take Discover.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
some people were like, no, we don't do that.
Sears preferred Discover because they went from one pocket to the other.
I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, I didn't either. I read it the other day.
I think you said that, this year kind of your push is to trying to figure out clinical services and making sure you can do it in such a way where you're really not, I'm sure what you're trying to do is positively impact, your bottom line along with taking care of your community. What's some of those services you guys are kind of looking at and going, obviously probably vaccination's one, but what's some of the stuff you guys are looking at? So
right now, I mean, the whole trick of this, and we've all been trying for many, many years, and I know there's some successful CPSN pharmacies out there, but I personally gauge the success a little differently because of breaking even, although you're giving services to the community, you got to do more than break even, and you got to make a little more money, especially if you're going to redesign this, this model, right? Because again, the prescription volume still drives the ship to this day. As much as we don't want to say that,
right,
we know it does, and it drives the cost of goods, and it drives everything related to your bottom line. And so my focus is really this year for our group is primarily we're focused on the immunization part, vaccination part right now, because we know, or at least we're being told, that is some real money out there on the commercial space when you're going to flip from billing it to the PBM on the pharmacy side through like Pioneer to getting it onto the medical side.
On the major med side.
Okay. Yeah, to credentialing with the plans and then contracting with them. And so I'm going to challenge myself, and I'm going to go on this podcast and say, I guarantee by this time next year, we will be billing all of our immunizations and vaccinations on the commercial side to the payer. And so that's my charge for 2022.
All right.
And the reason I chose the vaccines, and I really, I get in these meetings with people, and they probably hate me because I speak up too loud. But the bottom line is we can get into, diabetes management, medication management, all these things that we have to hire more people for, but we've yet to figure out how to get enough revenue to hire those people. Vaccinations and immunizations is low-hanging fruit. And if you can go from a $40 flu shot to an $80 or $120 flu shot, and you're doing 2,000 of them, boom, you just have the money right now to hire those people to then advance out those services. And so obviously the services are going to include, right at this moment, COVID testing,
sure,
COVID vaccination, monoclonal antibody therapy.
Okay.
I mean, that's the sexy word right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's going to dwindle with Merck's oral product, getting approved.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to end up being probably a Tamiflu-like situation where you got COVID, you got a symptoms, go get
your Tamiflu.
get a 7-day course or whatever, 8-day course of whatever.
Right.
So I'm not sure where that monoclonal antibody is going to go, but today there's some real money there. And then get into some strep testing. But still, I always come back to the vaccines, right? Why are we not pushing our TDAPs? And I'm sure there's pharmacies that are going to listen to this and they're going to say, hey, I'm doing that right now. And they are.
And some of them are, sure. Yeah, some of them aren't, though.
Yeah, they are. But the majority of us aren't maximizing that. Looking at the patient profile and saying, hey, you're due for a Pneumovax booster, or you're due for your shingles shot, or travel vaccines. So there's real money there, and that's why I'm focusing on that aspect of it first, because that will create the revenue to build the program.
Oh, gotcha. So really focus on a really strong vaccination immunization program first, so step one. And then you can advance, like you said, advance into if you want to do CCM or diabetes management, education, et cetera.
Well, and, I think, I've told a bunch of people this as well. Like, I've always been a big fan of public health in general, and it's one of those areas that has always been meh. And pharmacies have a huge ability to do this. And COVID proved that clearly, that pharmacy had a big way to move public health forward with COVID shots. Vaccines are that first step into public health, but there's so much other things that go behind public health that pharmacy can do, community resources, social determinants, all of that stuff kind of comes around public health and, hopefully public health grants.
Yeah, and we're actually, our store out in Grants Pass, Michelle Belcher, who is NCPA president right now.
Yes, she is
doing a lot of that in conjunction with public health and the state of Oregon, and we are seeing some real revenue dollars there with her. So she's actually piloting a bunch of this for us, and being a leader in exactly what the charge of NCPA is on the CPSN side. So I'm super proud of her, and actually the dollars are starting to show up there. So,
and that's nice.
But that is, that's that public health, that's that county, state, funded type stuff. We still have to figure out this medical billing, and this will actually a couple calls this week, I hear of some pharmacies that have set up separate clinics, and then they're using the clinic billing numbers to get into that medical space, which makes sense. And I know that a lot of people say, well, now we're giving up our rights of a pharmacist and, provider and all this kind of stuff.
Throwing in the towel on that, maybe.
But if we keep banging our head against the wall and the result's the same, I think, what is that? That's the definition of insanity or something?
Yeah, that's what I keep telling.
Stupidity.
Expecting a different result.
And so why don't we adapt a little and put a clinic in? What's CVS? What's Walgreens? Do they not have these clinics inside? Darn well they're billing on the medical side for that stuff.
Right. But yeah, that's why they hire a PA.
So I'm looking into that right now. I have a call Friday and to talk with a guy that's supposedly doing quite a bit of this. And from what I've heard, he said the majority of his revenue now comes from the medical billing side and his pharmacy clinic versus his prescriptions. So we'll see. There's a lot of what ifs out there, but we'll see if this is really true. And if it is, I'm going to find out how he did it,
Yeah. Interesting. Just the legal entity and how you credential all of that. What do you hire? Right. Who's
exactly.
Right?
Actually, I'm looking to, steal a clinical pharmacist from one of these software companies for honesty, but, and then have them come in and develop the program for all the stores.
That's interesting.
Just stay out of Pioneer, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah, I've already gotten a little trouble there, guys. So, that won't happen again.
That's it.
No, the upside is both of my pharmacists are anchored to Dallas pretty hard. So
Yeah. I don't want to see that phone light up Jeff Key's name on it again. So. I know it all was fine, but yeah, it was.
So first, we're going to hold you to this. So next year, when we talk again, you said we already have it recorded. We have it in writing. I think you said 100% of all of your commercial vaccines will be billed through Major Med, is what you're saying.
I'm not. Did I say 100%?
Did you say 100%? Did I say? Did I add that?
I think you might have put that in my mouth, but I did say I guarantee we will be billing the vaccines to the commercial payers on the medical side.
I got you. Okay. Maybe not. We won't hold you to 100% of it.
How about this? It'll be 100% of those I have a contract
There
with.
you go. Yeah, the ones that are eligible, right? Okay, all right. I feel you. Okay. So talk about that, and then I guess you still see that fitting fine into a smaller footprint, into kind of that smaller
Absolutely.
concept.
Yeah, because you can do all that out of an immunization vaccination room. In fact, those rooms could be quote unquote clinics pretty soon. If that's the direction we go for.
That's true.
And that's really all you need. And then you just have to do the licensing and whatnot. And so that's something we're looking into. I'm also, and this is something that's probably not even on your radar, but it probably should be, is, and I'm not going to guarantee this one, but getting someone on your staff to be a certified insurance salesperson, and get there. And the reason for this is we can now sell the Part D plans.
Right. Yeah.
And there's real money there. I think it's $425 or $450 per patient when you enroll and sell that insurance to them that you get back. And then if you there's a maintenance fee in there as well. Mm-hmm. So the analytics and the numbers are there. It's weird, it's odd, but if you have a technician or you got someone switched on in that space, I'm definitely going to look at that, kick those tires hard to potentially get an agent in our group that can then do all those Part D
analysis with the patient, sit down and go, hey, you're either newly eligible
and then
or
sell them the plan.
You're re-enrolling.
Because the insurance agent down the road's doing the exact same thing. They're getting the benefits from Humana or from whatever other Part D plan, Silver Scripts. And so why can't we do something like that? We actually know too what best helps the patient more than an insurance agent. Right. And if we see, a copay or something out of line, we're like, well, hey, yeah, you're on that med, but if we switch you to that one in the category, we could bring down your overall out of pocket. And so, that's something I'm really looking at. And there is some revenue there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It is. Well, what else? That's a lot.
What else have you done this last 11 months? Is there anything
new? Other than that, we have a lot to hold you to and ask you about next time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do have, and I think we touched on it, and I do have one more thing I wouldn't mind discussing and helping others, is when I'm out there looking for an acquisition, or if something comes across my desk, there's many different ways to approach this and fund this, right? I mean, a lot of people think they got to go to a bank and they've got to, get the lender to approve them, and they've got to, use a pharmacy lender or their local lender. And there's a lot of roadblocks there with banks. I mean, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of fees, there's a lot of, et cetera, SBA, non-SBA. I mean, all these different components to getting that finance. But there's a lot of owners out there who are starting to age out, who have made lots of money over their career. I mean, and they're probably invested in other things, bakeries, fun houses,
fun houses, bakeries,
storage units, property, whatever that looks like. And with the new taxes potentially changing here in 2022, it's not advantageous for them to take a lump sum. And so I like to go out and have that conversation with the seller. Hey, let's go have dinner and let's talk. Let's see what comfort level we can build. It goes back to that relationship, that trust, that, who and it's an interesting, I really enjoy it because I have found that a lot of sellers somehow are connected to me, especially in this area, via school or via people that have worked for me. And so you can build that trust, and then they will carry the note, and then your bank fees are gone. The owner the seller doesn't have all these tax implications related to one lump sum.
Right.
they've got some interest revenue. They're getting a monthly payment on the mortgage. And man, has it worked out well in a lot of my situations. But I guess where I'm going is don't be afraid to build that relationship, with that seller. Don't make it we're always like the seller versus the buyer.
Right.
And we got the
it's like North Korea, South Korea all the time.
And here's my first bit of advice. Keep the accountants and the lawyers out of it. Because they like to justify their jobs. And they justify their jobs by putting hours on paper and sending the bill to you.
For real.
You need them, and there's a space for them.
Yes.
And there's time for them. But when you're developing that relationship, break those walls down and really start a line of communication and go to dinner and meet at a conference and build that, because it's advantageous for both the seller and the buyer. And I think it's even going to be more advantageous coming into 2022 with we got a different leadership in government, and we've all heard that the taxes are going to, capital gains and stuff are going to change, significantly. And so, just something that I've learned over the years, and it's worked out really well for both.
Yeah, whether so especially if you're trying to acquire a new location, you're saying, for those of you out there, especially if you've never done it before ever. There's other ways, right? You don't have to go. You don't have to go to try to go get approved from a bank right off the bat. Sure, you may have to fall back on it, but you're
right.
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's several ways, and one, I love being creative, and like I said in podcast 1, we can put my email out there and people can contact me, because I love that part of it and coaching and helping.
Right.
But yeah, the bank is always there, but there's other potential options, combinations of those options that help everybody, both financially, and just from a relationship too.
Right.
So
nice, man.
Right. Makes a ton of sense. It's like Jeff Harrell's practical tidbit number 1.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Don't own a bakery. Number 2.
Not bad to open up across from a Rite Aid. I always feel like I learn a bunch of things here.
It's funny though. Like you always see a Walgreens across the street from a CVS, and you're like,
yeah.
Why?
But why?
Right.
Get 2 flavors of crap. Sorry, Walgreens employees. I don't mean that. Or CVS pharmacists. You guys are all still our brothers, but yeah.
They know.
And it's actually becoming common knowledge now.
Yeah.
So you didn't tell us anything we don't know, Mark.
Yeah, no. Like one of our good friends who opened up a pharmacy by our old house we used to live by, opened up literally almost in the same shopping center, which I was surprised she was able to do, right, connected almost to a CVS. And I was just like, man. And you're right. It probably took her about a year. Probably took 12 months. Didn't take 9 months, but probably took her 12 months, and she was breaking even.
I'll tell you, the opportunity right now is greater than it's ever been because of the labor issues that these chains are seeing. If we, as independent pharmacies, can just keep, I use the term with my group, just bite down on the bit and grind through this. Keep our doors open, keep our phones open, answer the phones. We are seeing tremendous growth off the back of the chains because they don't have the staff. They're shutting down 2 or 3 days. They're reopening.
Right. Yeah.
They're not answering their phones. I mean, we physically are getting in cars and driving over to chains for copies. And this is in at least 4 or 5 locations that I've heard this from my partners. And right now is the opportunity. So, if anybody out there, I know we're all tired from, the pandemic, from COVID, from all the different stuff. But if we can bite down on that bit and we can figure out how to keep our phones open and keep our doors open, that it's going to be a huge growth pattern for independent pharmacy. And we are going to come out shining because we were there and we made it through. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, in the meetings I'm in, I look across the table. I was in one yesterday for my compounding lab. They look tired.
Yeah.
The employees are tired. They're working overtime. We can't get enough people. I make a joke the other day. I'm like, if they have a heartbeat and a full set of teeth, I'm hiring them. I just, Eric called me the other day, discouraged, out of Spokane. And I said, I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm going to be flat honest with you. If you just bite down and just get through this, we're going to come out roses on the other end. And we're seeing it. We're seeing 30% growth in some stores, going from 450 scripts a day to 900.
Probably the greater the percentage, the closer the the Walgreens or the Rite Aid.
Absolutely,
or the CVS,
yeah.
right?
In that particular case, that store, the Buy Mart, closed down next door, and
Yeah.
then they sold it to Walgreens. Well, Walgreens can't keep up, and then the CVS
Right.
can't keep up, and so we're shining. But
Nice.
again, we're at the point now where we have to hire people.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we got to find those people and good people. But like I said, just grind through it, and I know that we're going to sail out on the other end of this.
That's a good point. How about that? I want to ask you about that. I tried to ask almost every pharmacy owner I've talked to lately, the hiring market there in your backyard, at least where you're at, still tough, still really tough, still not loosening up at all.
It is. It's mind-boggling because, you know, I travel quite a bit for the boards and different things, and there's not a city that I've been to that doesn't have a sign up that says hiring, or their hours have been cut, you know, or they're not offering this service, you know, or they're, you know, the sushi bar is closed because they don't have, you know, or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's just a whole bunch of different variations to this labor issue. But it was Halloween night, and I was at a friend's house having a drink, and they are in the hospitality and restaurant industry. And her and I have different political views, and we go back and forth, which is we love to do, Tiff and I. And so I said, you know what? How can we have a 4.9% employee unemployment rate in our state, and nobody has, you know, there's no employment pool? Where are these people at?
Right.
And she brought up a good point, and I didn't think about it, but the baby boomers retire.
They got out quicker.
They just said, screw it. I am not taking it.
Yep.
I can't deal with it anymore. And they left the workforce,
Yeah.
which was like 3-point-something million. I found out when I did some research on this. So the people, they're not there,
Yeah.
you know, and there are some that are still, you know, taking advantage of what the pandemic's brought us, you know, from a government financial subsidy thing. And I think that's going to get tighter. You know, I know in Washington, the moratorium went away for evictions. So people are going to have to get back to work and pay their rents and get back into the swing of life. But we have lost a considerable amount of workforce with the baby boomers. Now, I think that there's a segment of them that are going to get bored.
Kind of come back in. You think there's going to be a little
But are they going to
resurgent?
want to come back to a job where they're just getting ground up on the front lines? Or are they going to want to come back to, you know, this working from remotely from home, consulting, things like that?
Yeah.
So it's a problem. And we got to really think outside the box. Right now, every store I go to where I see a good employee, I'm slipping my card in their pocket.
You getting your scripts filled at Walgreens for a while, and then CVS,
Well,
you get them
more
transferred.
Like, you know, you'd be amazed at, you know, we have our own tech training program, so you can find people at the hardware store.
Okay, good.
You know, the bank is another good place, you know, and I hate robbing and taking people, but
it's a market. I mean,
what's luck? Opportunity meeting. Preparation meeting opportunity.
My parents are that way. My parents are right there, and they're like, well, I think we're gonna bail, you know, and
well, I don't remember where it was, in like the Atlantic or something. They were talking about what happened to 7 million people, right? Because that's basically what the gap is. In the people who, the number of jobs versus the number of people don't. There were a ton of people who retired early. You know, like that portion of the baby boomer. What we don't want to talk about is like 700,000 people are dead now. And a lot of them were overwhelmingly in the front lines, restaurants, you know, so those people aren't coming back. And then a lot of people started businesses. Right. You know, a lot of people were able to say, like, all right, I can't work. So they were forced into being creative. And there are a lot of small businesses that got started who are still, you know, unfortunately, some of them won't work out, but a lot of them might. And, you know, these guys went and created their own jobs where they didn't have it.
Yeah,
so
no, you're right.
There's some wild stuff.
It's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, I travel in those restaurants that we used to frequent, you know, those bars we used to visit after the meetings. They're gone, or they've changed, or it's different. You know, downtown Seattle, very different. A lot of those buildings are have different businesses in them. You know,
I noticed that in Charlotte as well. You know, like I went to North Carolina quite a bit because we've got a ton of pharmacies there. Downtown Charlotte has changed dramatically in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting time, you know, both in pharmacy and just life in general.
Yeah. Bite down on the bit.
Bite down on the bit.
I like it. Anything else for us or whatever? I think we about to hit our hour and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think things are good.
Okay.
I always have that question of how, how's the transition been, to the RedSail stuff. And, I don't know if you can touch on that a little bit. And so far we haven't noticed anything really out of the ordinary. So that's positive.
That's positive.
That was
thing.
Definitively our goal.
That's definitively the goal. Do no harm. That was literally the message going into all of this.
Yeah, actually, our goal after, purchase was, the reason we did this was to be better, right? And so anything less than noticing, like people noticing that we're doing cooler features, we're doing more of them, our support's better, that was really a fail, right? So our goal was just to make sure everything got better, and that was our objective. It wasn't to sell for whatever reason. So, I think for the most part, I think if you ask the average PioneerRx employee, it's business as usual.
Business as usual,
right.
Yeah. What about any, new cool programs or enhancements that, that you can talk about or at least touch on that might be coming down? I know, we're struggling with a compounding software that can do what we want to do. And I know Pioneer is working on some stuff there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know we've hit our hour, but maybe anything that's.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the things you might want. We did do a lot of enhancements around compounding just prior to the pandemic. And then the last 2 years, it was, all right, how do we make life easier to sell, drive-through, deal with the pandemic, vaccines, et cetera. So, one of the things that we have to come back to is figure out, how far down the line do we want to go with compounding? And that comes down to people who are using Pioneer. I think we finished the first 5 or 6 items that we kind of did when we did a compounding design session a few years ago. So we're probably at that point now where we need to talk about what's next.
Yeah, I might give you a call offline because there's a couple things that I've noticed that, that whole market's kind of changing, and I think there's some cool integration that can happen there.
How so? Do you mind getting in how you think it's changing?
Well, I mean, we need, PK, PCCA's had PK software for quite some time. And a lot of us compound and do retail, right? And so you're running this, it's clunky. We're trying to get it to cross over. And right now, I know in the Pioneer market space, from what I'm hearing, and we're visiting some stores, that are using it for the compounding. There's the barcode scanning of the chemicals when you're making, the product is not there right now. And so for the logs and stuff, I mean, that's super important for tracking and all of that. So we're doing like a hybrid. We use Pioneer for, maybe processing the script, and then we use the lab version of PK, and we're growing. I mean, we have 3 full USP 800, sterile, non-sterile HD compounding centers. And I really would like to have it so that it meshed in with your retail, so that you didn't have, 2 systems, all the scanning, it's just all the functionality parts of it. And so, I don't know where we were at. That's what prompted the compounding. We had a meeting yesterday, and the
barcode scanning should work for the most part. There may be some areas that we don't have yet, but let's talk about that and figure out what that is. Yeah.
So, but no, things are, like I said, things are uneventful. When things are uneventful, then that means that things are.
No, it's been good. It's been it's been a really good group to be around too.
They're
from
really
the
smart.
side,
they added some definite we should keep our eye on this ball instead, and they've been spot on every step of the way. So they brought in some management expertise that was every bit as advertised.
Good.
So I think you would, if you asked any of the leadership at Pioneer, I think we're all better managers now than we were a year ago. And I think that's important. And, they gave us the freedom to say, here are the features that we think are important and that we hear about. And, if you look at our new releases over October, we had some pretty stout releases.
Pharmacy
in October.
to pharmacy messaging.
We added some more messaging capabilities. We added some more, some templating capabilities. We added, we're going to be rolling out a global ID that allows pharmacies to log in with one username and password across the entirety of the Pioneer ecosystem. So as we start adding on central reporting and other types of capabilities, your password just works.
Yeah. So Jeff, you won't need 26 logins.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We're grabbing other softwares. 26 logins. we're grabbing other softwares, that are a little bit more sophisticated, specifically in the texting market,
right?
And so that's an area too that I think could be enhanced. Maybe voice texting. Canned messages. I know that we just looked at a company yesterday out of London because ZipWhip. We've been using ZipWhip for our compounding testing, and they're sunsetting that. They were sold and going to sunset ZipWhip in the spring. And so, but Pioneer does have that their texting messaging, but there's some more sexiness I think that could go to that and functionalities as we get into that world where people don't really want to talk and touch. They want to be texted. Yeah. You want to text them. Some of them can't get text, so they only have a landline. So it'd be nice to be able to leave them a voicemail on that landline via text and things like that. Right. So
let's just say that would be a fail on my end if a lot of that didn't exist in 2022.
Did I hear 100%?
Did I hear?
You heard nothing. You heard nothing about 100%.
Knew that was coming. Yeah, knew that was coming.
A lot of
got
that.
Him on video that said Josh guarantees.
It was recorded.
Let's not
that said
that,
a lot of that.
Boys and girls.
Yeah.
Brandon can edit that to make it say what we want it to say.
Be like, one of those things will be out next year.
Yeah.
No,
awesome.
But we're very invested in getting communication between the pharmacy and whoever else they need to communicate with taken care of.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me again. And maybe one of these times I'll work my way up where Jeff can join us, and I'll get the big dog in here too. So I like to poke and prod it.
That guy is breathing over the budget, so he's doing the real work for us.
Well, I mean, I think you'll find that we're the fun ones.
Yeah, that's
that's true. That's true. No disrespect.
We didn't invite Jeff today. We just said,
perfect.
Sorry, you're sitting out.
Yeah.
But man, hey, before we, I don't want to forget, before we get off this, how would someone reach out to you if they're, wanting to either pick your brain, maybe they got a pharmacy idea or dream themselves that are up there around you?
Absolutely.
How'd they get a hold of you?
Email's probably the best right now. Mm-hmm. So it's Jeff, Jeff, at PenPharm, so PenPharmRx.com. And that's like a short version of Peninsula Pharmacies. So Jeff at PenPharmRx.com.
All right, man.
Hey, are you guys going to go forward with the conference in 2022?
The Connect conference? Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a joint.
I've actually not ever attended.
Show. What?
So no, we were just kind of getting into the Pioneer space, before the pandemic, and now we're all in. And so I will definitely make sure that I'm there for that.
Yeah, for sure.
What are you laughing about?
I would say that's rude. You haven't been. I'm kidding. All right.
Now, Eric and some of the partners have attended. So how about that?
All right.
We'll take that.
Good. We'll take that.
We'll require an RSVP to Nashville.
Yeah. It's going to be in Nashville.
June.
Okay. All right. Just was there.
I think registration comes out in early 2022. So Q1-ish.
Right on. Yeah. All right.
All right, man. All right, Jeff, thanks for being on, man. Thanks for what you're doing.
Have a wonderful day. Keep going. Keep it rolling.
Yes, sir.
Bite down on the bit.
There you go. All right, man.
Okay, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode,
please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.